So the swing era drummers like Papa Joe Jones and Gene Krupa were primarily timekeepers, and their role was to make people want to dance. So the basic thing that they're trying to create is a really infectious groove, and that requires repetition. Groove comes from repetition and from a consistency in the metronomic aspect of the music. So somebody like Papa Joe Jones or Gene Krupa, often they played time on the hi-hat in 2, and then moved over to the ride cymbal to play in 4. And the left hand played a really minor role in their basic timekeeping function. So if I play in 2 on the hi-hat, so the kind of balance of activity and time playing would be similar to that. Might even be less activity with the snare drum, and maybe even a little louder with the bass drum. And a lot of the swing drummers did play the bass drum louder than that. And one time I asked Jim Chapin, why did those guys play the bass drum so loud? And he said, well, that's simple, man. The band leaders didn't trust the bass players. And he said if the drummer didn't have a strong foot, he wouldn't work. So when you hear those recordings, in fact, Gene and Buddy Rich, the bass drum is really predominant and driving. Now, as bass players got better and band leaders could trust them, and as amplification came in for the bass playing, and as tempos increased, the volume of the bass drum got softer. And in the 40s, when World War II was going on and this bebop thing was beginning to formulate, drummers that played a lot of accents on the bass drum, they called those accents, they say, oh, he's dropping a lot of bombs. And it was somehow related to the sound of bombs being dropped in World War II. And so the example I just played, there were no bass drum bombs. But if I play the same kind of thing with a little more of a bebop approach, you'll hear the bass drum feathering, but you'll also hear some melodic stuff and a little bit of a conversation going on between the snare drum and bass drum. And that might sound like this. So we have this conversational thing, but it's important to realize that the activity of the snare drum and the bass drum has to have the same phrasing as the phrasing on the cymbal. So if I'm playing the cymbal with basically a triplet phrasing, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, then all the underlying partials have to align with that. And sometimes people are confused when they look at written material, because jazz is often written, it looks like eighth notes, but those eighth notes are interpreted as the first and third note of a triplet. And that's what we consider the swing feeling. So on paper, it may look like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you would play. But a jazz musician is going to play it with that 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, with that kind of swing feeling, that triplicized version of it.